Hi guys, welcome to Let's Talk Gender. I'm your host Mary Ann, and well, today we're going to be having a conversation, or rather we're going to be continuing with our conversation on gender-based violence and types of gender-based violence. My last video I actually covered about psychological violence, so this video I'm going to be talking about sexual violence. So what is sexual violence? Let's begin from there. Well, there is no exact definition of what sexual violence is. There are other things that contribute to making a crime a sexual violence. Let me just say this in simple terms. It's like saying we have parts of sexual violence. What do I mean by that? Well, there is rape, there is defilement, there is sexual assault, and others which conclusively make up the word sexual violence. So one of the things that we're going to be doing while we're talking about this topic precisely, we're going to be inviting experts who are working in that field of sexual violence, and they're going to be telling us more about sexual violence and what we need to know about it. However, we're still going to talk about why sexual violence is something that we shun from talking about, yet it is a big crime here in our country and in Kenya today. I mean, up to right now, there are laws that don't seem to kind of protect the survivor of violence, and there are things that we ignore, yet they directly affect the well-being of a survivor of sexual violence. Well, for starters, I'm going to say this, yeah? When we talk about sexual violence, exactly, especially rape, we feel like, what exactly does the judicial system do when a survivor has gone to the hospital and has reported? We all think that nothing is happening. And it's about time that we try to question exactly what goes on, but first we need to understand exactly what goes on to make sure that a survivor of sexual violence has received their justice. Let's just not sit down and imagine, nothing is happening. One of the things that we do wrong or we go wrong is by looking at a victim of sexual violence just like a victim. However, we forget that this person has some criminating evidence against a perpetrator. So what do? We wash their clothes, we contaminate them, the clothes they had on by touching them. We need to be able to preserve that evidence, that crime scene. In as much as a victim is a victim, we need to remember that they are a crime scene that needs to be preserved so that justice can be gotten for them. Okay? And just like I said earlier, we shun away from talking about sexual violence because sometimes you feel like, it happened because I was dressed like this, or it happened because I was in a place alone. But it's high time we remind ourselves that violence, like I said, can happen to anyone. Anyone can be a victim, just like anyone can be a perpetrator. So when it happens to you, do not shy, do not blame yourself, because when such an incident has happened, it's not about you, it's about the perpetrator. Okay, it's about them, it's not your problem. Okay, so don't feel bad, don't sit around and start questioning, I'm not, it's my fault. It's not your fault. First of all, it's not your fault. Okay, and we need to trust the system. In as much as we may see that nothing is happening, and I'm going to be telling you how things are happening on the other side. So don't just sit down and say that I'm not going to report, because you failing to report gives this perpetrator a room to go and violate someone else. So what do we need to do? We need to encourage ourselves that it happened, yes, but it's not my fault, and I'm going to report it because I do not want to give room to this perpetrator to violate someone else just like they have violated me. So stay on this conversation, because we are going to be tackling we're going to be doing bits by bits of types of sexual offenses like defilement, rape, assault, and no, there is no such thing as sodomy in the judicial process. Yeah, I'm also surprised as well. So stay on this conversation. And if you have anything to add, feel free to talk to me at Let's Talk Gender on Facebook, or on my Twitter page at ShikoMarian, or follow my blog at letstalkgender.com, and let's keep up this conversation, because like I said, gender-based violence is the elephant in the room, and we need to know how to devour it. and it needs all of our thinking, it needs all of our creativity, so that we can help each other and identify what do we need to do to make sure that the victim gets the justice, just like the perpetrator. So stay on this conversation.